And welcome back to Love Your Food. With the temperatures getting colder, it's time for some amazing hearty soups. So this is our recipe for a beautiful, rich minestrone. Now, this can be made with a lot of different variations, a lot of different vegetable combinations can possibly go into this soup. We're just showing you what's seasonal where we are right now, here in Southern Ontario. So we're starting with some green onions. We have a zucchini, some fresh spinach, some green beans. We're going to be using some carrots, some celery. We have some some bay leaves, a dried pepper, some fresh oregano and thyme. And we just have that growing out back. And we also have some dried oregano and thyme. We're going to be using some pasta stars. We've got a couple of onions in there. We're going to be using a little bit of cheese. This is Asiago. Some beef broth, although you can use vegetable broth if you want to keep this vegan. Some whole tomatoes. Some chickpeas as well. We're going to be using a little bit of, wrong side of the can, tomato paste, and some lemon juice. This is the longest ingredient shot I have made yet. So we're going to start by getting our herbs ready. So we're going to just give those bay leaves a little bruise, and then we're going to chop the dried pepper. These are local peppers that we dried ourselves, although you can use pepper flakes if you like. This is just a way to make pepper flakes if you have some nice peppers that you've made yourself, or if you grow your own. So that's going to go into the soup a little bit later, but we're just getting it ready now. And we're going to start with our carrots. So we've peeled these, and we don't want to make them super small because we like for there to be a little bit of texture in our soup. So we're going to cut them certainly bite size. And here you see Chef Caleb just giving it a chop. So we're going to cut it into sticks. And then again, you want a pretty sharp knife for this. Once everything is lined up, we're just going to chop that into a pretty wide dice. And then we're going to do the same for our onion. So we're going to put the carrot aside and get our onion ready. So Chef Caleb's just going to do a little cut across the onion like this, and then give it a sort of a rough chop as well. And we do want to start by putting the carrots and onions in the pot first, just to give them a little bit of a head start, because they're going to take the longest to cook. So these are going to be our start in the pot. A little bit of our your favorite high smoke point oil. We're using some of our cold pressed canola oil. You can also use grapeseed oil. Anything like that is fine. Olive oil, you have to be a little careful with because it's not as high a smoke point. So once you've got a little bit of shimmer on there and it's getting kind of warm, we're going to pop our carrots and onions into the pot. And these are going to sweat for a little while until they start to cook a little bit. We just want them to sweat a bit in that oil. So once that's all in the pot, a little bit of salt. And then we're going to cover that and start preparing our other veggies. So next on the board is going to be our celery. So we're going to cut any dried pieces off the end. And then we're going to split it down the ribs. So we don't want huge pieces of celery. It's not everyone's favorite thing, but it adds a really great flavor to soups. And we're just going to get a nice chop on the celery here. Again, we sort of like having a little bit of textural difference in the soup, so we're going to add that to our already warm pot with the onions and carrots. And then once they've started to get warm, they've started to wilt a little bit. The onions have started to get a little translucent close to the oil. We're going to cover it in, this is the tomato paste. So as usual, all of the ingredients and quantities are going to be in the description below. Another little dash of salt because these veggies are going to soak up a lot of it. And then give everything a nice stir. We're just going to get everything going. And just get all of those veggies covered in the tomato paste. Make sure it's all well combined. So once you've done that, we're going to cover it again, and we're going to start chopping our other things. So we do have a couple cloves of garlic in here, and we're just going to give that a nice fine dice. And here Chef Caleb is going to chop it all pretty small here. Now this is a pretty big soup, so it can hold a fair amount of garlic. We're also going to just prepare our green beans. So we're going to cut the stems off of these. At least the ones that have stems. We're just going to get rid of all those. And if the end is a little bit dry, we're also going to get rid of the end. So those can all go away. And then we're going to cut them into, again, good bite-sized pieces. We don't want to cut them too small. We still want there to be a little bit of bite to them when we eat it. And then our zucchini as well. So this is all taking place while the carrots and onions, the celery with the tomato paste is all sort of cooking together. So here Chef Caleb is going to cut the zucchini into sticks and then dice it. So right now he's just cutting into slabs, then from slabs into sticks. And then from there it's really easy just to get it into the dice. And again, you can, whatever size you like for your veggies is fine. Again, we like there to be a little bit of texture. You can see here that everything's cooking together really well in here. The onions have all wilted and are pretty translucent. The carrots are starting to cook. They're a little bit soft. You can see some of the edges are getting a little bit round. That means they're starting to soften a little bit, which is perfect. They've got a little bit of a head start because they cook the slowest of all of our veggies. So now we're going to get the zucchini and the beans and the garlic into the pot. And we're going to add our spice mix. Another little generous sprinkle of salt in there. And give everything a good stir. And make sure it's all well combined. You can see that some of the tomato paste is starting to caramelize on the bottom there. Just give it a stir. It'll come up right now. And a little bit later we're going to be scraping all of that up when we add the stock. So there we go. That's all our veggies. Again, we're going to cover that and let it cook for a little while until they cook a little bit to about here. Again, you can see now the zucchini has started to soften a little bit. The corners are a little bit rounder. That means they're starting to soften. That's just about perfect. Again, you see some of that tomato paste on the bottom. That is going to come up once we've added the liquid from the tomatoes here. So these are whole tomatoes. We find that the dice makes things a little bit too thick. We prefer the whole tomatoes. You just want to give them a little cut in the pot with your spoon or your scraper, whatever you're using. And we're going to use a little bit of water as well to rinse out the can to get all of that tomato out. And then we're going to add our stock. Now we're using, again, beef stock, which is pretty traditional for this. But if you want to keep this recipe vegan, You can use a mushroom stock or a vegetable stock, not a problem at all. And this would be definitely a vegan soup. And again, we're just going to add a little bit of water into our stock container here. Give it a little swirl and get all of that stock out of there. And then the rest of the water goes in. And give it a good stir. While you're stirring, give a good scrape to the bottom, and you're going to get all that beautiful tomato paste up from the bottom. It's got a little bit of caramel to it now. That's perfect. So once that's cooked for a while, and we're getting ready to have it, the time to open the can of chickpeas is here. Now, any number of different peas, or beans or peas is useful here. We're using canned chickpeas. You can also use fresh, but you do want to soak them overnight and make sure they're ready to go. We're going to give them a little rinse and just toss them right in. Along with the chickpeas, that is when our pasta is going to go in. We're using these nice little stars, and then the spinach goes in now as well. A little more traditional for this would be shells, but we had these stars on hand, and they're just a fun little pasta shape. It looks like a lot of spinach, but as anyone who has cooked fresh spinach knows, it is going to wilt down to nothing. It's going to disappear entirely into our soup. All right, and give everything a good stir. Make sure it's all well combined, and that's going to cook for another little while. So this is going to cook basically until the stars are cooked. Otherwise, we're pretty much done already. So once you have everything well combined in there, you can get, we use the green onions just as a finisher. We like the flavor to remain a little bit sharp, a little bit green, nice fresh flavor at the end. So we're going to add this very, very close to the end of the cooking. It also gives a nice little crunch to the soup as well. And there you go. That is the green onion done. And then we're going to take our fresh spices. This is our fresh herbs. This is oregano and thyme from the garden. Again, this is going to get added at the end. We added the dried spices early on before we added the broth. But the fresh spices we're going to add at the end because it gives that nice, fresh, green flavor, that nice aroma to it at the end. And it sort of doubles that, that's the herb theme that we had going at the beginning. So we're using the same herbs that we used dried, except this is the fresh version. We're just going to give that a nice small chop here. Doesn't have to be perfect. If there's some small pieces, that's okay. And there we go. That's that. So you can see everything in here is just boiling away. Everything is coming together. The pasta is just about done. You can see the stars have really swelled up. They're nice and soft, but still a little bit al dente. Now that's going to cook as this sits. If you have enough people to eat a whole pot of this, then it's going to go quickly. But if it stays overnight, you're going to lose a little bit of texture on the pasta and probably the green onions as well. But now is the time for the green onions to go in and our fresh spices. And just well combine. So once that's all well combined and everything's looking really good in there, we're just going to give it a taste. We're going to make sure we can adjust our flavors at this point. So give it a small taste. Normally at this point it requires some adjustment. So we are going to add the juice of half a lemon. So here Chef Caleb is just getting the juicer going. So that should be just about enough. It doesn't require a whole lot. There's a lot of acid in the tomatoes as well. It just needs a small little bit of brightness. So we're going to add the lemon juice. First, we're going to add a little Worcester sauce. Now, again, to keep it vegan, you want to leave the Worcester out. We're going to add a little bit of Tabasco for a little bit of zing. The hot pepper we used actually turned out not to be all that hot, so we needed that little dash of Tabasco to bring it up a bit. And then the lemon juice. Another little dash of salt is frequently required at this point. The pasta will suck up a lot of the salt from the broth. So a little dash of salt will certainly help at the end here. And then just stir everything in and make sure it's well combined. We're going to give another little taste test here, just to make sure that our adjustments have worked, and you can further adjust it at this point if you like, and that's it. We're going to top that with that Asiago cheese we showed you at the beginning, and that's our minestrone. This is a really excellent, delicious, very hearty, very rich, incredibly warming soup. It's very, very easy. It just has a lot of ingredients, as we showed you here. If you like this recipe, please do like and subscribe. And if you have any recipes you'd like to see Chef Caleb try on the channel, please let us know in the comments below. And remember to love your food.